it's still my favourite cover. So this is my favourite piece of work that I've ever done. It's to do with the juxtaposition of history and technology. I knew I wanted to have a historical artifact for this cover. I didn't mean to have a painting of flowers. The album's called Power, Corruption and Lies, and usually when you order, I wouldn't know what the record was called, and nor would they. And usually you wouldn't hear anything, and usually they didn't have anything to say about it. But Power, Corruption and Lies was such a strong title. The titles would come from Stephen Morris, the drummer, reading a book. When they record an album, it goes on for a few months, and Stephen usually reads the book. And when he reads the book, he puts bits of paper or underlines phrases in the book. And Power, Corruption and Lies came from somewhere. And it was such a strong title that they thought I ought to know about it, so they told me. And actually, I went to look for a Machiavellian character. I went to look for a kind of dark Renaissance portrait to represent Power, Corruption and Lies. And every time I found one, it was just too obvious. And by accident, I found the Phantom Latour flowers. And I didn't mean it for the cover. I just took it off the shelf in the gallery, and a friend was with me, and she said, "Are you thinking of that?" And I went, "No, don't be silly." Yes, I am. Actually, this romantic painting of flowers was such a counterpoint to the title that it seemed much more appropriate than Machiavelli. So that was one stream of thought, and in this historical sourcing, I began to think about computer archive systems. I was aware, I mean, it's the early 80s, and it was before we as graphic designers were using computers. But I was aware that an archivist in a museum would be able to call up images on a computer. And I kind of thought that was interesting. Because it would create a new context in which to see a historical work. You know, the first time someone saw a Rubens on a screen, it's quite an interesting thought. And the juxtaposition